Television highlights of the news of yesteryear.
One man's war. Here's a man destined for world's highest office, about to tackle the most humanitarian work this world has ever seen. It's November 1914, and President Woodrow Wilson has given heartbreaking job of Belgian Relief to a man named Herbert Hoover. His boyhood town is tiny West Branch, Iowa. His first home is this house behind the blacksmith shop. One of 3 children, young Herbert at 13, right. With pioneer class, he enters Stanford in 1891 to study engineering. Among students, he fast becomes a leader. Among practicing engineers, a standout. And now in 1914, with a wife and 2 growing sons, he must lead the fight against famine. With members of Belgian Relief Commission, he plans the flow of food to the tiny kingdom laid waste by warring Germany. He tells this nation that men and the might of arms can fight, but food will win the war. Response is quick and sure as women sign the Hoover Pledge. Belgium's war-racked millions will not starve, for the pledge is kept. From every corner of the nation, this is the answer to Hoover's rallying cry. His own sacrifice is itself an inspiration to the world. He draws no salary. Cost of his job is paid from his own pocket. Every dime contributed sends these cargo-laden ships over hostile waters to those starving over there. Meal after meal for Belgians, not one morsel for the Kaiser's crew. This is another promise Herbert Hoover keeps. Even he, the humanitarian, cannot put bread into the hand of the hated Hun. He is here to save the oppressed from greed of the oppressors. And Hoover promises that starving children shall be far from hungry. There's extra luncheon for the tots of this turbulent world. In midst of war, Hoover visits Belgium and King Albert to see firsthand how his fight with food is faring and watch a ragged nation clothed. Again, he shows the way to salvation. This is our cast-off clothing. But it is all these women and children have against the ravages of war and winter. These are a people who lost everything but life. War's end, and the German occupation is over. Belgium will soon feed itself again. And Herbert Hoover comes home to America not to rest, but as head of American Relief Association. Once again, he sends food overseas. This time it's Austria. And in Vienna, they get the news that help from Herbert Hoover is on its way. It's here, and long months of starvation are at an end. Work well done, the chief goes home to Mrs. Hoover and to rest. But soon he is in Harding's cabinet. And then March 1929, he leaves the White House, Washington, with President Calvin Coolidge under skies that threaten rain. This is the climax of a life devoted to all mankind. As his nation honors him, even these youngsters gawking from treetops know it is the whole world which applauds Herbert Clark Hoover, 30th President of these United States. It rains as he takes office, but rain is nothing to a man who has known storms of suffering. For war and famine strode the highway that brought Herbert Hoover from West Branch, Iowa, to the White House, Washington.
String of pearls. It's 1924 at Cartier's, New York City. The fabulous Tier pearls are seen for the first time in America. Here's how the collection of 145 pearls is matched for stringing. A necklace worth more than $1 million must be tied with expert and special knots. It takes permission of French Parliament to allow sale by Louvre Museum. Baron Rothschild and Otto Kahn are among bidders, but necklace comes to Cartier's. Here's the string, complete with diamond clip, and here's a good look at the historic tiare pearls.
Here's Rabbi Steven S. of New York, back from trip to Europe. Pioneer Zionist, proud defender of the brotherhood of man, Stephen Wise, voice of comfort in a troubled world.
This man killed Stanford White. Yes, here's Harry K. Thaw, and here in 1915, he's released from Mattawan Hospital, but ducks cameramen. Harry Thaw, central figure in most notorious crime of 1906. Shooting is over Evelyn Nesbit. Public sympathy is at first for victim White, but during trial, sympathy shifts to Evelyn's protector, Harry Thaw.
In rare pictures, here's famed composer of Bolero on concert stage in January 1928. He startled music world with strange new harmonies, but now among the classics are works of Maurice Ravel.
The kidnap craze. May 1934, little June Robles is home in Tucson, Arizona after 19 days. Just 6, she's faced threats of death at hands of parties unknown. Where chains bound her tiny ankles, scars still show. The chains and the tin closet in which she was kept prisoner by her abductors. An anonymous letter sends June's uncle 9 miles into the desert to find the tiny victim half buried in the sand. She's sick from heat of the broiling sun, but safe. Home at last, she fast returns to health and happiness. Again, May 1934, William F. Gettle, wearing glasses, is Los Angeles' victim of kidnap craze. For 5 days, this house is his prison. Then wiretapping crime fighters nab clues and these 2 women. And after questioning, Gettle is found and released, his kidnappers caught. Here they are, the trio who demanded $60,000 for their crime. Within 24 hours after Los Angeles police found the kidnapped Gettle, his abductors are on their way to prison. But first, they must print their San Quentin calling cards. Fallen kings of crime, Roy Williams, Larry Kerrigan, and Jimmy Kirk. Now just numbers for life.
Pioneers from Paris. September 2nd, 1930, cars are jammed at Curtis Field, Long Island, and thousands wait anxiously for word of Coste and Bellonte. Last seen over Newfoundland, but now feared lost in fog. But here's their tiny plane. First flight from Paris to New York is finished with but 100 gallons of gasoline to spare. Among spectators is Charles A. Lindbergh to greet French flyers, first to make his famed flight in reverse. Plane is called the question mark. A successful leap of the Atlantic is the answer.
Not Paris, France, but Brooklyn, USA, back in the early 20s. It's a department store showing of formal gowns and wraps that must have been 4-alarm sensations at the firemen's ball. Short skirts, misplaced waistlines, and floating panels were the fashions of the day. Did you ever see a potato sack walking? Then, as now, mink was a symbol of prosperity. Here's a little everyday wraparound worth $5,000. But for big evenings, Brooklyn beauties prefer ermine with mink trim at a mere $25,000. Fashion was in bad shape according to present-day standards. These feathers look much better on the ostrich. Don't laugh now. The smart fashions you're wearing today will look just as funny in 20 years. It's this constant fashion fluctuation that has kept the apparel industry booming and the American husband broke.
Battle of New Yorkers, January 8, 1939. Two Manhattan hockey teams clash in Madison Square Garden. Rangers in dark shirts want this win from star-spangled New York Americans. Bully Smith Americans heads goalward, but Ranger defense is tight and keeps out puck, but not players. Ranger star Dutch Hiller zooms through Americans' opposition to take puck to first Ranger tally. Gallagher of Rangers had same idea, but Chapman of Americans takes puck other way, but not all the way. Along sideboards, fight for puck is about to turn to fists. Goldsworthy checks Coulter, number 2, and referee has to stop flare-up as Rangers stop Americans, 5-2. Mars, the magnificent son of the masterful man-of-war, Travers Handicap, Saratoga, 1926, carries his father's proud banner to the starting post. In polka dot silks is favored Pompey. Among celebrities in the stands is Chauncey Alcott, and here's Mrs. W.K. Vanderbilt with Larry Waterbury, here to see how well a son of man-of-war can do. Then they're off. Those who thrill to the beating hooves of Big Red pounding home to victory have their eyes on Mars, his son. Those who cheered the king of racing's royalty are cheering Mars, the prince. Those who wept the one-time man-of-war was beaten are watching and waiting for the big drive at the home stretch that would spell sweet victory. With Earl Sande up, Mars passes Pompey, and the mighty Mars finishes fast and first.